Okay, crossing the border illegally is not a crime?
No, it's not a criminal act. It's a misdemeanor.
So why are they being sent back and saying that they're breaking the law?
That's the point.
Okay, as somebody that
We don't know if they're breaking the law because they won't tell. There's no due process. Where's the evidence? That's the whole point. And if they are breaking the law, most people will say, okay, then they need to go if they're criminals. But if they're not, why are they being rounded up and sent out, especially when he promised to deport the criminals? And now he's not doing that.
I don't think we're going. So misdemeanor is not
It's not a criminal act. No, if you get charged with a misdemeanor, that's not a criminal act.
Charge at all then, if it's not a criminal act.
Because we have different levels of crime. Everything is not the same.
So it is crime.
No,
It's just
we have different levels of. I shouldn't say crime, but it's not a crime. You're not breaking the law. I mean, you are breaking the law, but it's not a criminal act. No, you're not breaking the law. No. That's not a criminal act. Well, no, if you're speeding, is a misdemeanor. Right.
So still breaking the law.
Okay, but if you want to qualify that, we're doing semantics. But what I'm trying to tell you is everything is not the same. It's all not one thing.
What is the law?
What is it? The law that what?
Is it a law to come over legally? Is there a law?
There are rules that are processes that you should follow. Yes, so you're breaking rules. You're breaking the rules, but you're not necessarily breaking a law.
So what happens when you break rules?
Then you suffer the consequences. But the consequences should not. Look, no one is saying no one should suffer the consequences. You guys are getting things mixed up.
Wow. It's amazing that a clown like that can sit there and wrap himself up in this big knot, have no idea what he's talking about, and come out the other end thinking that, man, these people they just don't know. They just don't know what they're talking about. Man, we'll be talking about that piece of shit. And sorry to start the show so blunt, but oh, man. Before the Renee Good thing, I knew that as soon as there is an ICE agent who has to use their firearm, and I was expecting it was going to be on somebody illegal. I wasn't expecting it to be on someone who was protesting. Well, protesting, quote unquote. But regardless, I knew as soon as that happens, it's gonna ramp up exponentially, and I was absolutely right. And then, if you haven't heard the news, we've got another one, and this time it's even worse because, well, we'll get to that. But so I had planned to do a show a couple days ago before any of this had happened, and it was kind of a mixed bag show. It was some stuff that was good, some stuff that was bad, and kind of really going over the things that I thought we needed to all kind of discuss. But things have changed drastically over just the course of the last 8 hours or so. And I'm kind of, well, I shouldn't say everybody, but I'm disgusted in a lot of people right now, and people that I thought were kind of coming to a point where they're starting to kind of get the point of what was going on. Like they were, they weren't going to change their voting habits or they weren't going to be any less strong on their positions, but they at least weren't going to be so psychotic about it. And to people that were seemingly starting to understand the reason things were going on, I thought they totally understood that at least some basic distinctions. And it turns out I was wrong. And I think, I'm not going to say people should not exercise their free speech and speak their mind about whatever they want. But let's just say if you're, take for example, if you're a streamer and you've done one thing your whole life and then you move into politics and you want to give your opinion on everything, that's fine. But don't go around giving definitive statements about things, especially when they just happen. Like, because we're in a day and age now where the media is so discredited that they'll freaking look like complete fools next to just about anybody. The problem is that the people that they look like fools next to are in some cases, incredibly intelligent, but not in the area that they should be to be delivering, factual information about a situation involving a political dispute or something. And when, say, they prejudge a case to their millions of viewers, it's like poisoning the well on yourself. It's really, I guess I'll have to just get to more detail later. You might even know who I'm talking about already. Maybe you don't. I've never even spoken about him before, but we're getting into a lot of people I haven't spoke about today. I don't even think I've talked about. I may have talked about Don Lemon and on occasion here or there, but no, man, never in a million years would I have expected that he would be the most barbaric little worm to just be so desperate to get his foot in the door that he would do something so sick as to bring a group of mentally retarded, unwashed, like completely in need of a bath or a shower, group of protesters, aka Black Lives Matter activists, and one big bearded ogre that has the most annoying jackal-like voice I've ever heard in my life. Bring those people into a church on a Sunday during services and be happy at the fact that they ended up chasing everybody out of the service. And they're genuinely proud of themselves. And said arrogant bearded ogre that sounds like a jackal is literally yelling at people for not taking to the streets for Renee Good. And I'm sitting there going, and we're talking about to some kids that look like the one I saw that really pissed me off with him was like a father and like maybe a 12-year-old kid. Like it was bad. And then what really got me was you guys are the ones who are constantly nonstop. I guess it's because of church and they hate religion so much they didn't really bother to care too much. But they cared a whole hell of a lot when it was a church shooting, because then geez, those these weapons of war. Oh my God. Yeah. It's always the weapons of war. That's what you're worried about. It has nothing to do with the American people. You just don't like the Second Amendment. We know. Anyway, sorry I'm a little cynical, and sorry I'm so late, by the way. I'll get into it right away because I don't want to waste any time. This week was lame as hell. Some things were alleviated. Some things came in that were good news, but not enough to really be super exciting. Anyway, so where to begin? Well, let's start with some good news, and then we'll just dive off into the cesspit of absolute just disgusting filth after that. So I didn't even know. I had no idea that President Trump would be going to Davos this year, but apparently he decided that would be a good idea, and sure enough, he was absolutely right, because I'm sure anybody that has been kind of supporting the president since his first term will remember the Germans' response to him during the first World Economic Forum that he attended, and was talking about how if the German economy keeps going like they're going to end up reliant on Russian oil for their infrastructure, and they had a camera that was focused on the Russian delegates or Russian delegation, whatever you call the people. What do you call the people at wait, was it that might have been at UN? Either way, he made that prediction in a international setting, and they were laughing about it. They just thought that was so ridiculous. Oh, what does he know? And what do you know? Where do they get all their oil from today? Oh yeah, that's right, Russia. That's right. That's right. They're all they've got are trees to burn down for warmth and I guess energy maybe from wood. I don't know. But anyway, um, once again, it just kind of so this year there was a sort of different vibe. It was before Trump gets here. Let's just use every chance we can to talk about how that administration is inhumane and they don't care about the rest of the world. We have to take care of ourselves. Good luck with that. And then as soon as he arrives, it's hello, Mr. President. How are you doing? Like literally falling over themselves to say hello. You're doing such a good job. And I sit there and I go, man, like shameless as hell, just absolutely shameless. And I gotta the I'm not gonna play his whole speech, obviously, but there's portions of the speech that I thought were just not only were they amazing and some of the best stuff that Trump has said on an international level, but they were absolutely hilarious. And this time there was no laughing, there was no noise whatsoever. People did not make a peep. They just sat and watched. The only person who seemed like they were kind of trying to laugh was Gavin Newsom, who really, really got the short end of the stick because he was supposed to have this big sit-down fireside chat. That's literally how it was branded, was as a fireside chat between him and I don't remember who the hell it was. It was people that were obviously going to be criticizing America. Um, and because I think the leaders kind of well, first off, he announced the fact that yeah, that whole thing about me invading Greenland. What were you stupid? You actually thought I was going to do that? No, of course I'm not going to invade Greenland. I just want to make sure that our interests are being served there, and we're going to make sure that come hell or high water, we're going to do that. And that was really that in and of itself was enough to get them to be like, oh, okay. Like they never understood the concept of humor, of course, in their life. But the other thing was that he hasn't been playing around when it comes to tariffs, and he actually has been honoring his promise. And the whole ridiculous Taco Trump concept, which the left, if they understood memes at all, would understand that's just an insult. It's not really a meme; it's stupid. But if they paid attention to everything Trump has done since his first term up until now, they'd recognize that what they call chickening out is really getting exactly what Trump wants out of a deal, and what he thinks is probably the right amount to get out of a deal, because that's how you deal. Anyone who's sold a used car, you probably know what I'm talking about, where you start with a price that's a little, or maybe a little bit more above what you want to get for it. And then when you negotiate with people, they kind of throw you a lower offer, and somewhere in the middle you get the price, and it's about what you really wanted to get. And that's really basic in terms of deal making. But on an international level, that's got to be very, very, very difficult, because you have to have legitimacy, and you have to have the military might to back it up. You have to have the economic power to back it up, the workforce, all that sort of thing. And problem for the world leaders now is that Trump actually does have those things, and he's making it work very well. So essentially, he was kind of partly rubbing it in their face, but also at the same time putting forth a really stark warning, because just like with everything else, I think one thing that the leaders may have been sincere about from every country is that even if it's for cynical reasons and it's because they just want to be reelected, the amount of immigration they're accepting into their countries is beyond capable of actually putting into a system that would be functional. The problem is they don't know how to say no like we do, so they just keep letting them in. And don't really know what to do about it. Us, on the other hand, just shut the damn border and we're like, okay, nobody else is coming in. Unfortunately, that's what a lot of the show's going to be about, is the other part of that. But for now, we'll go over that speech because I just think once again, there's so many good singers in here, and I can't remember if there's the picture of Newsom in this clip, but even if it's not, it's pretty funny. He spent the whole time in Davos talking to any media outlet that would listen to him bitch and moan about Trump, and literally, making these cringy jokes about it, and it was pathetic. But you could tell I remember I saw him. He was visibly red, like he was furious. He couldn't hold it in, like he was ready to explode at any moment. I'd never seen Gavin get like just literally start getting like super red in the face, and his mouth just curl into this scowl that looks like, how dare he? Like I couldn't believe how angry he looked at. And for a narcissist like this guy, it kind of makes sense, but at the same time, it's pretty pathetic that no one's ever told you no before, Gavin. No one, I guess not. But even when we hated you and we tried to recall you, like because the Democrats threw a temper tantrum about Larry Elder, that we ended up unfortunately still stuck with you. But anyway, let me get the yeah, here we go. Oh wait, no, that was something else. Oh, and also I do have one other kind of good treat for everybody. Hannity surprisingly has been very, very effective. He's been on fire lately. He's had a couple of, I think at this point, 3 prominent Democrats in the House on, and they're all idiots, of course. It started with Sri Tanadar, Mr. Impeach Everybody, and who didn't know that they provided who knew they provided an increase, but to law enforcement in the big beautiful bill, but still tried to accuse Trump of defunding the police for some reason, and embarrass that little weasel Jack that was debating with him. But oh yeah, so this was my plan. This was a little bit more interesting. I thought this would be a little better of a comparison. So as a side by side, the first video is from the last administration, their participation in Davos, the World Economic Forum, and really, what we saw while they were in office, and how effective they were at communicating, and what the actual event was like under the Biden regime. So let's watch that first, and then we'll contrast that with this year and see how Trump did, and we'll kind of give it a good overview and see what you think, because I think it's slightly tilted towards Trump. I could be wrong, but I think Trump slightly edges out the competition just a little bit. So anyway, we get started. You remember this freaking hack? The inflation is transitory woman. At least the woman who said that probably more than anybody else in the administration. Next to who was it? No, it was definitely her. She probably said it more than anybody else. Anyway, here's Secretary Janet Yellen, Secretary of the Treasury at the time, who was talking about how transitory everything is. It could be transitory that we have inflation. It's transitory. Anyway, let's check this out. Oh, volume. There we go. All right.
Climate change represents an existential threat that will require close global coordination.
President Biden's made investments at home. that people around the world are seeing. Much of what we're trying to do, we can't effectively get done alone. We have to have partners. We have to reimagine, as we've been doing our partnerships. And that actually makes it a great time. We know that virtually none of the problems that we want to address for our own people can be done in isolation. We can't do it on our own.
I'm convinced we will get to a low-carbon, no-carbon economy. We're going to get there because we have to.
Not now.
I am not convinced we're going to get there in time to do what the scientists said, which is avoid the worst consequences of the crisis.
The reality is that countries around the world want to follow the formula that we've developed, and we want to help them do that. Making bold investments, building high-quality infrastructure, empowering workers, tackling climate change. And we've also been focused on ensuring our approach works for everyone.
And this is core for the rebalancing with China. China is welcome, but what we need is more Chinese foreign direct investment in Europe, in some key sectors to contribute to our growth, to transfer some technologies, and not just to export towards Europe some devices or products which sometimes don't have the same standards or are much more subsidized as the one being produced in Europe.
Wow. There are very clear guardrails in that relationship. I spoke of calibration of relationships in my remarks. That's what I mean by it. But within those clear guardrails are huge opportunities in energy, both clean and conventional, obviously in motor vehicles, in agriculture, in financial services, all of which is mutually beneficial. So it's additive. And look, it's the second largest economy and it's our second largest trading partner. We should have a strategic partnership with them. Within those guardrails, and that's what we've achieved.
And when President Trump says Greenland's under threat from Russia, even from China, is that for real?
I would say that there are threat. Russia is without question a threat in the Arctic.
I think somebody
to protect from Russian missile threats and others, and why we will work with our NATO partners.
But when we
I think someone is
only
beholden to
negotiate
China a little
bilaterally
bit,
with a
wouldn't you
hegemon,
say?
we negotiate from weakness.
Correct.
We accept what's offered. We compete with each other to be the most accommodating.
Yeah.
This is not sovereignty. It's the performance of sovereignty while accepting subordination. Great powers have begun using economic integration as weapons. Tariffs as leverage.
Yes, China has.
Financial infrastructure as coercion. Supply chains as vulnerabilities to be exploited. You cannot live within the lie of mutual benefit through integration when integration becomes the source of your subordination.
Isn't Canada almost uniquely vulnerable to pressure because of the extent of your trade dependence on the United States?
Well, the proof is that we have been able to withstand the pressure, and there has been considerable pressure. I'll give you a couple of facts. We've actually created more jobs since the tariffs were put on than the United States in absolute number. Our economy is growing at the second fastest rate within the G7.
Wow, what an interesting tale of facts, isn't it? That was a brilliant performance there by Prime Minister of Canada. Was it Mark Carney? So now that that's over, how about we take a look at what it was like after Donald Trump showed up in 2026 and actually kind of put on actually gave people a show, not just a show, but a display of the fact that America, we've always been significantly powerful force in the global sectors of pretty much everything, from military to trade to natural resources and everything else. But we didn't really seem to care to leverage it. We just kind of accepted, yeah, we're in a good position, so let's be nice. Let's treat our partners with respect, and they'll treat us with respect back. And then they didn't. And then so many so-called leaders came, and they did their little stand-up routine, and they danced like the monkeys they are, and they attempted to appease the globalist freaking alien scum creatures from who knows what planet they are actually from, just to make sure that, you know, they didn't want to rock the what's that term they always throw around all the time? The global democratic order, is that what it is? I think it's something like that. But anyway, so we try that, and then along comes Trump, and he's like, "To hell with this! Why aren't these fuckers paying what they are supposed to be paying? Why are we paying for all this shit? Why are we always ones to?" And worse than that, what really was getting under the skin of Americans, including me, was it not that we were, you know, trying to help out with people and do what we thought was right in a lot of cases, which in a lot of cases was very wrong. I was very staunchly against many of those wrongs. However, that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was the sort of, no matter what you did, whether you had a success or you failed, it was, how dare you? How dare you come? It's a Greta Thunberg. How dare you? You know, it's like, how dare you give us all of this money and then demand to know where it's going? How dare you do such a thing? And then, like I said, Donald Trump shows up and is like, well, guess what, bitch? No, that doesn't fly anymore. We're gonna actually, you know, try and make sure we know where the money's going, and we're not gonna just hand it out so you can buy another yacht. So anyway, I'm sorry to preface it with such a long intro, but here we are with Donald Trump at the World Economic Forum in 2026, and wow, what a glorious sight it is. So,
just to be clear, that
and
we
of course
have Europe buying Russian oil still 4 years later, they are financing the war against themselves. India started buying Russian oil after the conflict began, but President Trump put a 25% tariff on them, and India has geared down and has stopped buying Russian oil.
We are in Davos at the World Economic Forum, and the Trump administration and myself, we are here to make a very clear point. Globalization has failed the West and the United States of America. It's a failed policy. It is what the WEF has stood for, which is export, offshore, far shore, find the cheapest labor in the world, and the world is a better place for it.
The United States of America, since 1980, has contributed $22 trillion more dollars, or spent $22 trillion more dollars on defense than all of NATO. So roughly the same size population, and we have spent $22 trillion more. That is 2/3 of our outstanding government debt.
And what we are here to say is that America First is a different model, one that we encourage other countries to consider, which is that our workers come first. We can have policies that impact our workers. Sovereignty is your borders.
When it comes to imbalance, we have a huge imbalance with Europe. You've had huge access.
I didn't even know who this guy was until I started.
We've had limited access into Europe. You limit our agricultural imports, you limit our industrial imports, and you have a huge surplus with us. And it's not because you're particularly competitive.
You're entitled to have borders. You shouldn't offshore your medicine. You shouldn't offshore your semiconductors. You shouldn't offshore your entire industrial base and have it be hollowed out beneath you. You should not be dependent for that which is fundamental to your sovereignty on any other nation. And if you're going to be dependent on someone, it darn well better be your best allies.
And what I am urging everyone here to do is sit back, take a deep breath, and let things play out. As I said on April 2nd, the worst thing countries can do is escalate against the United States.
And do you not feel that a security deal in the Arctic would suffice in terms of Greenland?
Well, I think what we're seeing, we're seeing with a base that we have shared with the UK for many years,
The UK is signing the island over to Mauritius. So
I'll
again,
explain that
I
in
can
just a
see why the
second.
president believes that for U.S. engagement, we do not want another Diego Garcia on our hands.
Why would Europe agree to be...
Real quick, just to put that was on Louder with Crowder, and they were making a point about how Scott Bessent. I think the guy is like, he's for the job of economic advisor. Like I don't think I've ever seen a more impressive economic advisor to the president of the United States, and the point he was making was that he's not always the best at public speaking, but he does hit a point where he gets this groove, and when he hits that groove, he stays in it, and he's able to really like just keep rolling. But it takes him a little bit to sort of get the ball rolling, and when he does, then it's really great. So that was the point where it shifted from kind of stumbling and not knowing exactly what to say to moving right into the beast mode after, because he happens to be gay, he was thinking about these buff models and all these sorts of things, and he got his Billy Madison moment, or I'm sorry, Happy Gilmore moment, and that's why they played the music, of course. Anyway, so that was why the joke was there. It might have seemed completely out of place for the clip, but that was the context, just so you know. It wasn't just showing weird, suggestive photos for no reason. But anyway, here we go.
Net zero in 2030 when they don't make a battery. They don't make a battery. So if they go 2030, they are deciding to be subservient to China, who makes the batteries. Why would you do that? Why would the United States of America, which has oil and natural gas, try to convert to all electricity?
China is a very large buyer of Russian oil, as they are of Iranian oil, as they were of Venezuelan oil. But guess what, Maria? No more Venezuelan oil for them.
Thank you for your hospitality.
Hey, here we go.
And above all, for your leadership. You're a transformational president, focus on the economy with a relentless focus on the American worker, securing your borders, ending the scourge of fentanyl and other opioids, and securing the world. And I've been elected with my colleagues here. With
Trump goes, you took notes of my last speech.
The credit to transform Canada with a similar focus. And I'll say this as well, that the president has revitalized international security, revitalized NATO, and us playing our full weight in NATO. He's right. You are a transformative president. And since then, the transformation in the economy, unprecedented commitments of NATO partners to defense spending, peace from India, Pakistan through to Azerbaijan, Armenia, disabling Iran as a force of terror, and now, and I'm running out of time, but this is in many respects the most important. What you created
of Canada and the United
States. There are areas where we compete, and it's in those areas where we have to come to an agreement that works. But there are more areas where we are stronger together, and that's what we're focused on.
Oh, it is glorious to see these sorts of things. And to anybody out there, that hasn't, not quite up to speed on these things, like, the left always argues the dignity of former president. Joe Biden was such a dignified leader, and Obama was such a inspirational leader. And it's like, yeah, they fucked the country, but all the world leaders talked them up and acted like they're so great because they basically played them like a fiddle. Maybe not Obama. Obama was more crafty than that. He wanted to fuck America, and he wanted to get some for himself out of it as well. But point being that essentially it's just like it's a way of basically, saying good job, shafting America. It's what we deserve, and you deserve some credit for sticking it to us because we're so evil and always so colonizing and this ridiculous leftist bullshit. But point being that I need to stop saying that. But somebody mentioned that I need to stop saying point being. The point is that it's fine to say nice words about a guy sitting there with dementia who doesn't even understand what you're saying, but when you watch the clips of people like Mark Carney or people like what's the guy, the leader of France, Emmanuel Macron, who's wearing sunglasses for some reason, when you see how absolutely unimpressive they are, and like how they literally do jack shit for this country, and we have still, despite all that, been beyond generous to these people. All it takes is just somebody who's like, no, you know what? We got our own problems. So you take care of what you need to take care of, or we're not even going to do our part. You figure it out. And then they, no, we can't have that. We can't have that. No. And it's just amazing. It's just amazing to see, because these are, I'm not a big fan, obviously, of, I'm sure you can tell I'm not a big fan of the like sort of, I almost had the rules-based democratic order, rules-based global order, something like that. And nor am I a fan of these big, international elite circle jerks that are just there to usually be a big party for everybody to celebrate their own greatness, and like a monument to hubris in flesh, just showing up all ready to just bow at the altar of themselves and just worship it nonstop. But then you have a guy like Donald Trump come in who it's like, the success is there, but there's something else there that's not found in anyone else, and it's because he didn't live his life as a politician who was chasing the best approval rating. And I've noticed that, I think at this point with the tactics that the left has been employing, we'll get to that, believe me. But what they've been doing this term, how completely just, like, it's not even unhinged. It is so beyond unhinged at this point that it doesn't even do it justice in the slightest to say unhinged or radical. They're way beyond that. They've completely lost control of themselves. They just have gotten so angry they have no idea what they're doing anymore. And yet there really should be no reason why. There's so many things that they themselves advocate for that is happening, and they don't like it. They don't like it now because Trump's doing it. And just the seething hatred and anger is there. And so when global leaders get together and Trump's there and it's not one of their preferred candidates or one of their preferred leaders or whatever, there's always questions about this. It's like, just for once in your fucking life, you think maybe it would kill you at all just to maybe just a little bit actually think about what you report to think about all the time, and that's the best interest of this country, and not about what deals we're doing with this country. As long as don't give anything to Israel, but keep shoveling more out for Ukraine, of course, and all the countries that and definitely you need to bring back USAID. That was such a critical government agency. Yeah, critical at putting us in critical debt, but just the most unimpressive, unremarkable, ridiculous people have nothing to offer yet they have some charisma when they are speaking on the mic to a bunch of other unimpressive people. That's the game. And I think that's why Trump is kind of just goes over their heads. They just don't get it. And the people get it because they actually have to live in the shit. So, anyway, unfortunately, though, the racism and blatant evil Nazis and that part of the damn it, I'm trying to fix that one, but I don't know.
The fuck are you doing?
There is that one, so I don't know. But anyway, so it was fantastic to see this, especially like I said, Scott Bessent, beast, and that's what I think. What's the biggest difference between this term and Trump's last term? I would say, without a doubt, it's the cabinet. The cabinet this time is so 9-day difference, head and shoulders above anything and everything that the last Trump administration was. These aren't people that are, suggested to him and he's going on faith, hoping that it's a good pay. No, he's picking people, and he did pick people that were people he knew and counted on and could trust for a fact. There's no question about it this time. There was no worries about it this time. That's why, we need to get rid of these drug boats that are bringing drugs into the United States, and then they can't stop attacking Pete Hegseth, and then the next week it's the Venezuela situation. They can't stop attacking Marco Rubio, and then the next week there's a tariff put on this country, and then they're mad at Scott Bessent, and then it's like, but they rotate them out, and they can't stay mad at one of them for too long because there's someone else they're mad at, and it's just glorious. And now that here's what's interesting: Dan Bongino is about to kind of be back to his podcast, and I'll just tell you guys right now, I don't know if I ever told you guys this, but one of my biggest inspirations for, like, I wouldn't say inspiration, but somebody who I watched and really was influenced by, I would say, to do a show like this was Dan Bongino. I thought that his style, his what he talked about, how he presented it, obviously a little bit more disciplined with his tongue than I am. He was a lot better at not saying things that are above the PG level, but no, the way that that show worked was fantastic. And when he took the job, that was the only thing that sucked for me hearing about it, was that, oh man, that's like one of my favorite shows. I love Louder with Crowder. There's other shows I watch, but that one was the only one I really watched regularly. And so I'm really, really curious now that looks like he's going to be back to doing a podcast again, what exactly he's going to have to say, because look, here's what's crazy is that in this week we've had in the House, we had who came in first? It was Nick Shirley came in with a couple other people to discuss the Minnesota fraud situation. Today we had Jack Smith. Oh boy, I won't even have time to get to that one, but it was brutal. Oh, it was brutal, and it was so brutal that, of course, it's brutal when you got that son of a bitch Rat Raskin going, and he's got his eye on the clock every time a conservative goes up to ask questions, and he's watching that thing. As soon as it hits time over, Mr. Chairman, the time has expired. Mr. Chairman, time has expired. Mr. Chairman, time has expired. He's such a fucking weasel. I swear, I can't stand that guy. And anyway, they were just like, Jack Smith is the kind of guy. He's gonna weasel his own way out of answering any kind of questions. But I've never seen someone who always seemed so sure of himself and always presented himself. Mr. Subway Sandwich walking out. Yeah, you can take that and shove it right up your ass because you didn't have any kind of smart-ass remarks to sell this time, did you, buddy? No, they just asked him the exact right questions, the exact kind of questions that he was going to have trouble coming up with an answer for. He plays a typical game to try and run out the clock. They weren't letting it happen. It was a very well done all the way around. It was under Jim Jordan. So, and man, there were some real stars, but we'll go over that at some point soon because there was nothing really pivotal that was brought up at this hearing, but it did set the stage for what they're trying to do because look, I'm about to go over this part, but it looks like the Justice Department is finally starting to be able to kind of close in on some of the people they've been trying to find a way to get their crosshairs on. And the reason, and this is the best part, the reason is because I think more than anything what they needed a case that was going to be big enough to get people's attention and strong enough to where if a judge denied a subpoena or a warrant or anything because of a lack of probable cause or a lack of sufficient evidence or whatever it was that they were going to try and use to get out of it, it would be just so overwhelming. It would be impossible, and that judge to be able to keep any kind of representation or any kind of reputation of being actually a fair-minded judge, because when it comes to the situation in Minnesota with the Somali fraud scheme, it is so laid bare, it is so obvious, it is so brazenly abusive, just out in the open, that there's no way in hell that somebody was going to be able to come in, roughshod over that whole story and act like nothing happened. It wasn't going to be able to happen. So, and then came the infamous Don Lemon Church and Black Lives Matter run, where, what got me was that, because of you fucks, we end up hearing nonstop about the tragedies that have happened with mostly trans shooters, by the way, who go in and decide they're going to massacre a house of God because, well, they're so angry because they hate white men and they hate church and they hate religion and they hate this and they hate that. And so I guess that treatment's really working out great, isn't it? But so, just sitting in a church and hearing a group of people barge in and, acting like they are, they're perfectly, no one's going to even get in their way of starting to begin their loudmouth protest right in the middle of a church on a Sunday. It was one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen. And they're so proud of themselves. They're so proud of themselves that they were appearing on Don Lemon's show and all introducing themselves, talking about how important it is to protest. And it's like, yeah, guess what? There's also something in the First Amendment you probably weren't paying attention to because you really hate the thing. But it's called the freedom to practice your faith. And when you're talking about private property, like, say, a church, you don't just have the ability to barge in there with your signs and start yelling at people because you think that one of the pastors there is an ICE informant or an ICE agent or whatever. It turned out the pastor there that day wasn't even the one that they were looking for, but they still accused him anyway of collaborating with ICE, which, I'm sorry, even if he did, what's the problem? He's helping ICE remove, people who are murderers, child molesters, sex traffickers, drug traffickers, associated with cartels, associated with Trinidad Aragua, associated with MS-13, people that, and I guess they want to have them in their communities. They'd rather have them than the Christian people. And why? Because they're white. I guess that's the reason why, because they're white. And oh God, how terrible. We can't have bunch of they're probably Christian nationalists. So the buzzwords they've started getting in their head to explain away everything, like it's just reasonable to feel. It's totally reasonable. Sorry, no, it's not. Your position is ridiculous. It's insane, and you really should actually read a little bit about the things you say once in a while, because you sound like fucking morons every time you start talking. But I can't highlight how disgusting this was enough without just showing you guys. Let's go over this clip really quick. This isn't a comprehensive clip. It's just a kind of short clip, just to show you guys what it was actually like inside the church during this protest. I cut out some of the more overly played portions, like Don Lemon basically going like this, getting right up against the pastor, and then he's trying to back off like this, and his mic shoved in his face, and Don Lemon has the nerve to go, please don't push me. Oh, I'm sorry. Please stop shoving yourself into me with your mic then. Man, that pastor was, he definitely was doing his sacred duty of not losing his mind with the combination of ridiculous questions and incredible, rude, and absolutely just complete disrespect that was being thrown at not just him, but everybody in his entire congregation. And on top of that, he says, I would really kindly ask that you actually leave so we can continue to worship in the church here. The guy was being so disrespectful to a guy that didn't deserve it in the slightest. And then, as you see, they're not going to leave. You just see the families start to walk out one by one, leaving the church, because they're like, I guess we can't go today. And I'm like, wow, I hope you people are proud of yourselves. I hope you really are, but here's the thing. This is why I brought up the Justice Department before, because there's already been 3 arrests because they didn't know about this little thing called the FACE Act, because you see, when they passed it, the focus was on abortion rights and people affiliated with churches and nonprofit religious groups that were hang on a second. That were that's not, there we go. That's what I needed. There were these reports of people blocking entrances to abortion clinics, and they were all Christians that were overly aggressive or something. I'm sure they were. I'm sure they were just as overly aggressive as the one where, the guy whose son was being yelled at by some anti-Christian, anti-Republican, pro-abortion, pro-everything left, basically yelling at a kid whose dad was right there, and the dad was like, "Get away from my son," and shoved the guy. And of course, they arrest that guy. That was actually Mark Houck, who Josh Hawley, in Josh Hawley's district, I believe, and they had the FBI go show up at his door for that little shove, because God forbid, you ever protect your children from violent and imposing angry guys that look like they are potentially going to do harm. But anyway, so the FACE Act, that was it. Sorry, FACE Act. They were probably a little too focused on that part, but there's a provision in there about how you can't block access to medical facilities or women's reproductive care facilities, which always means Planned Parenthood or abortion clinics. But the second clause in there says the same thing, but in the case of prohibiting access to or impeding the activities of those in a religious building with purpose of worshiping as they see fit to their religious beliefs. And what these people did was essentially stormed into a church, overpowered the voice of the pastor, overpowered the voice of anybody in the crowd, scared the people to where they weren't talking. Some of the kids were crying. Most of the men were furious. You could tell they were holding back because they were in a church, but I'm sure a lot of them wanted to do something to get these people out, and it wasn't just to talk to them. But they're better people than that, and they didn't do that. But it's unbelievable. They didn't even bother to care to look at the fact that, hey, this is prohibited what we're trying to do under law. And now they're all getting mad and they're just saying, oh, it's because Don Lemon is, they're just trying to do to him what they did to Jimmy Kimmel. Oh, you mean nothing? Because Jimmy Kimmel is an unfunny, horrible, untalented, and leftist hack that, was facing the consequences of the fact that his show sucks and nobody watches it. And I don't remember the part in the First Amendment where, I think I've said this before, I don't remember the part in there about how free speech includes your own late night show every week or every day of the week to perform shitty stand-up comedy in front of partisan crowds that are going to react to the clap signs like they're trained SEALs. I mean, it's bad. It's really bad. But to act like that guy did anything remarkable by suggesting, which once again he doesn't even seem to understand this fact, Jimmy Kimmel himself, that nobody was mad at you for saying anything about Charlie Kirk, that you said they're mad at you because you tried to pass off the murderer as somebody who was a member of the MAGA crowd, to which everyone goes, why exactly do you suggest somebody who was a MAGA conservative would hate Charlie Kirk so much as to murder him in front of a college campus full of students and faculty members and everybody else? And they can't ever really give a good answer, obviously, because there is no good answer. But just some interesting side note to the situation. So here's a little bit of what actually went on with this sixth stunt that they went on. And by the way, Don Lemon is one of the he's so, you can always tell he's got such a chip on his shoulder, and it's not just because of CNN. It's also because Musk recognized what a fucking fraud he is. And when he did that interview on X, it was the first Don Lemon show interview with Elon Musk. I think it was just his first episode of him on the platform. And it wasn't long after that he was told, "Yeah, we really don't think you fit the rest of the don't think you fit the rest of the man." Oh well. Anyway, so let me get to this. I'm sorry, I'm going around in circles, and let me just play the clip because it speaks a little bit better. Is it? Oh no, never mind. That's something else. Okay. Man. What did I save it under? Oh, that's right. That was the ice bike footage from before. Well, hold hold on, just let me see if I can find this. I hope I still have it saved because. Yeah. Here it is. So, I don't remember exactly what I did. I had the purpose of doing this video by showing the accusations hurled at ICE and what they're doing to the community and what they're doing to their fellow citizens of the state of Minnesota versus what Don Lemon and Black Lives Matter and all the freaking, taxpayer-funded NGOs that pump money into the product of I can't remember what the hell was it. Anyway, yeah. I'm sorry. Stark contrast here is the way ICE handles their business and how Don Lemon goes about thinking he's going about a peaceful protest. And just the way that, listen to the things that they say. This is what really gets me, and I can't believe how easily people are able to buy into just absolute bullshit with not one hint of being reflected by reality. You just need to show them the, most recent actual. But anyway, yeah, between then and then, like, the people that Donald Lemon's demonizing as these people, and what he thinks is a good idea for a protest is they're not supposed to be comfortable. It's supposed to make people. I'll tell you one thing. I've seen a lot of protests, and yeah, maybe they are to challenge people's worldview. It's not to do it in a place where they are supposed to feel like they are safe from, when we've had things like there was that guy, yeah, that's a gun. Let me go get this gun from this guy real quick. Yes, it was. Hey. Just the tactics are unbelievably stark and indifferent. Like there's no comparison here. There's one group that is actually trying to practice what their message is and show people that it's a force for benevolence. It's a force for good things happening. It's a way to find your own peace in your own life. And Don just wants to reject that out of hand. Oh, jeez. Well, that's okay. I'll get it. Anywho, sorry. Let me damn. Is this it? Yeah, here we go. Okay. Oh yeah, so this starts off with a good example of what it is that ICE is doing in the communities, and you may have seen this clip before. It has got some attention. It hasn't got nearly as much as it should, though, because this ICE officer is kind of at a point where he's had enough of the. Because I gotta admit, every day going to work and hearing these fucking whistles and fucking car horns everywhere you go, you're trying to arrest a dangerous guy who's a multi-time felon for strong armed robbery, rape, torture, Okay, there we go. Got it. Volume.
We're here to arrest a child sex offender. And you guys are out here honking.
Oh, they're not. No, we're press. We're not.
That vehicle right there is honking and impeding our investigations while we're trying to arrest a child sex offender. That's who you guys are protecting. Insane.
And here's the presence in church. Just one thing real quick, though. These are the same people that won't shut up about Epstein. Epstein. Oh, Epstein. What about Epstein? And they have no problem, nothing to say about it, nothing that can't even come up with an excuse for why they think it's okay to just block ICE from detaining, arresting, and deporting a sick piece of shit child molester from the country. No, they'd rather protect that guy. And yet they want to lecture everybody else about Epstein and how the president should just release everything. Yeah, I'm sure you'd love that, because if he did it too early and had some things he should have redacted, you'll come down on him for not redacting it. If they do redact everything, you'll say too much is redacted. If they release it too fast, you'll say they were reckless and we didn't get everything. If they release it too slow, you're doing what you're doing now, which is like, it's been too. We should have got these a long time ago. How do you even know that that's not all of them? What, do you know something that we don't? I'd love to know that, because it sure seems like Democrats really are expecting. They're waiting for something. They're probably waiting for something that's never going to come. But the point is that if they really are waiting for something, wouldn't they want to see just more cards coming and not going to beat down a Ed Cassary? Anyway, so yeah, let me get back to this. I'm sorry, I'm looking at this thing trying to fix it, but you already heard the loud, annoying ogre. Let's just listen to this a little bit more and let your ears start bleeding from it. So here we go. I can't believe they're still repeating the Michael Brown hands up, don't shoot bullshit. Can you believe this? Like, seriously, that was debunked so long ago, and yet they're still acting like that was what happened. Same way with what was that, Breonna Taylor, where they're like, well, the no-knock warrants, it's because of no-knock warrants. It's like, no, it's because they accused the officers of not shouting and making their presence known when they bashed the door in, which they did because people in the apartment complex that live close by heard them do it. And her boyfriend, before realizing who it was, just started shooting. Sorry, but, I think you might have some problems in your life when, something loud happens at your door and your first instinct is to grab your gun and just start shooting before you even look that direction. And they're trying to shoot back at him, and they killed. But they weren't, of course, mad at her boyfriend because, he's black and he's down on his luck. So we can't critic. Yeah, and don't get me wrong. Hey, I don't care who you are if you're down on your luck. That sucks. But, maybe you might want to not keep that that peace around and be so quick to pull the trigger when you've got so many, well, actually, so few prospects left in life to go for. Sorry, it's so, ooh, man. Oh, I'm sorry. I keep forgetting to turn this back on. Let me get this thing on.
Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Don't shoot!
Crimes that have occurred, exactly what they are. I'm not going to flag, but the FACE Act has been mentioned as one of the predicates there. So the Klan Act is a law that makes it illegal to terrorize citizens, to violate their civil rights, to get together and conspire to violate the civil rights. It is often used against law enforcement, but is now used against others as well. So whenever anyone...
So, Dawn, it's abundantly obvious to me that if...
Now... This is Jennifer Welsh, I think. I can't remember. I think that's her name. If you have never heard this woman speak, or this thing speak, be prepared. This is an inhuman creature that has nothing resembling human emotion. This is one of the most despicable, horrible, evil people I've ever heard in my life. And the left was counting on this fucking bitch to be the next Joe Rogan. Because, she speaks like it is. She tells it like it is. And she's not afraid to tell the hard truth. No, what she is she's a shock jock. She's a female Howard Stern. Who, by the way, Howard Stern loved to diddle little kids. I'm sure that if she was male, she would do that. Maybe she does as a female. I don't know. I don't want to speculate on that part. I will say, though, for someone this irrelevant, she sure as hell loves throwing her weight around. She sure as hell loves throwing around accusations and calling out people for absolutely bullshit that has nothing to do with them. And one day I think she's going to step on the wrong toes, say the wrong thing about the wrong person, and they are going to, you think, like, I think it'd be more appropriate to say she's the Alex Jones of the left because, whereas Alex was basically, whatever you think about Alex Jones, I can understand the anger with Alex Jones from some certain groups of people, but the fact of the matter is that, like, that was not nearly as, first of all, so much of that story was untrue. Alex never took part in any door-to-door knocks or anything like that. And secondly, the amount of time he spent on his show actually really discussing Sandy Hook at all, skeptical or not of it, was so small by comparison to so many of the other... I mean, if there's conspiracies Alex Jones talks about that I would have thought would have been much more upsetting because he actually seemed like he believed him. With the Sandy Hook thing, it was, and he's gone on record and said this himself, it was more like, his show, when you have a show about conspiracies and deep state and government secrets and things like that, you're going to attract a lot of weirdos. And nothing is ever too far enough in terms of a conspiracy for the weirdos. And so, it was suggested in some of the circles that followed his show that why isn't Alex talking about what really happened at Sandy Hook and all. And so he checked out the idea of it being a op on its face, and he didn't rule it out right away before he started doing shows and talking about it. And he shouldn't have opened his mouth for sure. Should have actually looked into it all the way before he mentioned anything about it on air. But I think he was kind of at a point where he was he was trying to research so many conspiracies, and he probably was at a point where he's trying to make sure he was delineating between all the things. I'm not trying to make an excuse for him. I'm just saying the way they blew that up and sued him for more money than InfoWars or him is worth, barred him from banking, barred him from using, any kind of, like, the amount of restrictions they put on him for a man that, didn't serve anywhere near. God, man. It's, man, it's, anyway, so get your gag reflex ready and prepare, because this lady is not, she's not fun to listen to at all.
They do charge you. You're going to lawyer up, and they're going to go get humiliated in federal court yet again, because these people are dumber than a box of hot rocks. They're so breathtakingly stupid.
Yeah,
I
she's
can't
never read
even
the FACE
take it.
Act, I guess.
None of what she says there applies to me. There's no
Right.
evidence. I have no affiliation with the organization. I have no
Right.
planning of any of this.
You just showed
I
up
am a
there
journalist
before, and
reporting.
we're talking
so,
about the
she's saying that
preparation.
they're saying
and-
I'm in some sort of activist. I'm like, okay, why do you keep dragging my name in it? What you're saying doesn't apply to me at all. And
You're
yeah,
so right. It's the black gay thing.
I stand by my reporting.
Oh,
and that should be my response. I stand by my reporting, to everybody,
course.
Jen. So it's
'Cause
kind
you're
of
a shitty
ridiculous.
reporter,
She
so of
keeps
course you-
talking like in circles about these things. And I just found out about the Klan Act. And I'm like, and by the way, Benny Johnson in his black T-shirt. I mean, look, he's Nellier than I've ever been. I'm just saying.
It's the gayest thing I have.
I'm not going to say what I was going to say. Let's just go.
Ever seen in my life. I mean, right up there with little Moses Mike Grinder Johnson. And here's just the thing,
Wow.
Don,
What
that just
a,
gets me about these guys, these little DL demon queens, right? There is probably extra layers of jealousy towards you because you're able to be brave enough to have gone from what these people are in, which is the closet full of shame.
He's the one that
Yeah.
works for us. We don't know. That's what they're saying. So we're here just
that's what
chronicling
it
and
is.
reporting. We're not part of the activists, but we're here just reporting on them.
Like anybody on the planet is jealous of Don Lemon.
I'm not with. I'm just. So this is what the First Amendment is about the freedom to protest. I'm sure people here don't like it, but
This is not what the First Amendment is about. As a matter of fact, you're actually showing what contempt you have for the First Amendment by doing what you're doing right here. Especially with what you're doing being based on bullshit. Not to mention the fact that you're doing it for criminals and illegals and in general people that for the most part are just I heard the statistic that it was out of the deportations it was about 70% that had criminal record beyond just crossing the border, which of course is a crime, Don. So actually, yeah, all of them have a criminal record because they all broke into the country illegally. And your due process line of that bullshit, no, that doesn't absolve anybody of anything, you stupid fuck. Anyway, this is just every time I watch this, it's amazing that this is what not only fine by this asswipe, but fine by everybody who he knows in media and everybody he knows in podcasts, everybody knows in journalism, everybody knows. Because they're all left-wingers who hate Trump and hate Christianity and hate the United States, and they just love this kind of bullshit. They just love this kind of thing. And it's like, okay, well, then, if you hate it so much, I really think, maybe you might want to look in some other countries that don't have all these things. There's plenty of them. There's one that's pretty damn close. It's just north of us. They're a lot closer to your values, I think. Why not just take it? That it wouldn't be hard.
protests are not comfortable. And there are people here who are, I'm looking at a young man who's in the corner, he's frightened, scared. He's crying. People are leaving church. Perhaps they should come in, pray together, and talk together. But anyways, that's the middle of it. If I were the pastor, I would offer a prayer. I would try to calm things down and say, listen, talk to you. We're all citizens. We're all believers and Christians. What do we do? Or if I don't know if everybody is, but everybody's a human being. Let's work together and talk about these things. The pastor, there's one of the members who looks to be really upset, a young person. The pastor's trying to calm him down over there.
Yeah, gee, I wonder why.
Yeah.
Once again, bear in mind, this is happening because the federal government is finding, arresting, and deporting people who are illegally in the country. And most of which, even if they claimed asylum on their way in, have already been issued a final notice of removal, which means, by the way, Don, that means they had their fucking due process, you dipshit. That means their due process phase, yeah, that part's done, and it's the removal part. It's the part where we say, get the fuck out. They're doing this because of the fact that they're doing this because some dumb broad decided it'd be a great idea to resist arrest, ignore the orders of a police officer, and use your vehicle as a deadly weapon to try to escape and nearly hit a cop in the process and ended up getting shot because of how many times because it's more than that. You know, she was sitting in the middle of the roads trying to block ICE from getting to their destinations. Like you heard from the other ICE agent in the video, they showing up when they're trying to make an arrest, and they honk and they blow their stupid whistles and they get everybody's attention and they cause a big scene. Minnesota, man, it's and isn't it just? I feel bad for the people of Minnesota that are good people. I really do. But man, the fact that it's a state governed by that fat hack fucking piece of shit, Tim Walz, literally, I mean, Donald Trump is right. The guy does seem like a retard. He really does. I'm not even using the word to be insulting, although I'm sure he would consider it. Actually, he wouldn't. He'd consider it hate speech. He actually still uses that term and still pretends like there is something called hate speech in United States law or something, and you don't have a right to use hate speech. The guy is a full-blown fucking... He knows nothing about anything. And that guy... I mean, I've said it before, I'll say it again. We dodged the mother of all bullets, making sure that piece of shit didn't end up as the vice president, one step down from the president. If anything happens to the president, that person takes over. Can you imagine? I can't even picture what the hell the country would have looked like under a President Walz. Oh, man. Just saying it out loud is scary. It's like the phrase Speaker Jeffries. It's just, it's disgusting. Anyway, let's get to this.
So, there you go. You're a member of the church?
What's that?
You're a member of the church?
I do.
How do you feel about this?
I don't necessarily agree with everything that's going on in the Twin Cities right now, but I don't think it's good to fight fire with fire. I think it's good to speak up, and I think it's good to protest, but I think it's better to do it in a peaceful way. I don't think the answer is going into God's church.
You don't think this is peaceful?
It's
nobody fighting.
It's trespassing. How would you feel if I went to your house and I started yelling?
Here we go.
It depends on what I did, but not in my house. That's a whole different thing. I think these people would go inside of anybody's house.
This is a house of God.
Which makes it everybody's house.
Yes, it is. But in a house, people don't yell at each other.
Yeah, but there was a lot of yelling in my house growing up. We still loved each other.
Yeah, but doesn't necessarily mean that yelling is the answer, right?
So fucking
That
disrespectful.
doesn't necessarily mean yelling is the answer, right?
No, but I think that's the way you work things out is that you talk to each other, you disagree. Sometimes it's heated, sometimes it's
Nobody
not.
there
But at the end of the
disagreed.
day,
And that's
we're all
it.
human beings, and I think maybe if the pastor would like try to calm things down and
Listen
say,
to how much he
let's
puts
all
the
talk
blame on the pastor.
together and
Blame
make this
on
peaceful and
it's
not
always
be so
everybody
us
else's
against
fault.
them.
It's always everybody
I think
else's
that's good
fault.
to talk,
It's not the
but then
illegals.
why don't we do that?
It's not
right?
the mayor. It's not the
I don't think
governor.
trespassing. I think protesting on the
It's
streets is
the
fine, but I think there's a
preacher.
difference between that
It's the
and
pastor.
then going into someone's property and then yelling.
You know, and
How do
whoever.
you feel about allegedly, according to the protesters here, there's a member of ICE who is a pastor here, or is a member of the clergy?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
A member of the clergy or a pastor here is works with ICE, and that's why they're upset.
I didn't know that.
Allegedly, I don't know. That's what they say.
Okay, well, I'd say before just ramming into a church, maybe it'd be good to get some more information first.
Yeah.
Because
it
you
was,
said
wasn't it?
talking is the answer, right?
Isn't that a great way to put it to him? Before you come, because guess what? That pastor there, I think I may have said this already. That wasn't even the guy they were alleging was working with ICE. Nobody's even confirmed that yet. But you know, guilt by association. Hey, what could go wrong? This is, I mean, the level of sickness there, like I said, is just beyond. When I first saw that, how dare you? I hate to sound like a, you know, like kind of cringy about it, but seriously, how dare you? How dare you do this to people like this? You want to know why Minnesota has tension rising? Because you won't give them any space to breathe. Because you won't allow people to process information and think rationally about it. You just hit them with emotional constantly, which is exactly what happened today. And I guess I'll mention it because I'm not going to be able to get to everything I want to get to today. This is going to have to be cut short. I'm going to have to do the rest of this tomorrow, hopefully, if I can't. Well, yeah, I probably can do it tomorrow. Yeah. There was another ICE-related shooting, and I'm not going to talk about it in detail right now because I would have to do the whole rest of the show about it I really don't have time to do it in this episode because honestly, like I said, that wasn't going to be part of the show, and it turned out that it was going to have to be a major part of the show, but I already had a whole show ready and planned out before I did this one. But there are a couple other things to kind of round this out because well, honestly, the whole situation with you know, the thing in Davos, that was just a plus. But there's a whole other group of people who are out there, and I swear, the level of irresponsibility of the leaders in Minnesota, have so catastrophically failed the people of that state that that it looks like the only way out of it really is going to be for Trump to use the Insurrection Act. One thing they don't understand, and they keep using, they probably do it on purpose because they want people scared, but it's not like declaring martial law. It's not like, you know, you have troops there to take power away from the local government and seize it for the federal government. It literally is just a method by which to quell lawless or destructive behavior of a it speaks of a invading force or a terrorist force operating that is unable to be controlled by local law enforcement. In this case, unwilling to be handled by local law enforcement, and that is really at the heart of all of this. The reason that Renee Good ultimately was was there and got into the level of conflict and eventually got killed at all is because the politicians in Minnesota have decided that that's acceptable for their goals, because they're going to make sure that cops don't get called out to help ICE. They never are going to help them with getting to make an arrest. They don't have to take part in the operation. But if your citizens are, literally acting unlawfully towards a federal officer, say throwing frozen water bottles at them, for example, and then running away, and then ICE has to chase the guy down or the girl down or whoever might be throwing it. In this case, I'm not sure what it was because it looked like it was in various stages of transitioning to something, and I don't know. But let's say in this hypothetical case that they finally catch up to this person and tackle them in the snow and getting handcuffed. And then you see them still resisting, still not getting up, still not allowing ICE to go about what they're actually there for, which is to arrest an illegal immigrant who, in all likelihood, is a detriment on the economy, dangerous for the local community, and needs to get on a plane and get the fuck out of the country. And yet, they don't care. They don't care about that at all. They don't care about that at all. And here is where we get into the rough and the nitty gritty. I'm going to introduce this subject today because this is going to be important. It's going to be something that I because that's why I said I really need to do it tomorrow, because there's something at the heart of all of this that I've noticed. And well, I don't want to be that guy who's telling anybody who's on social media, like, don't speak up about anything. I'm not going to say that, but what I will say is, first off, to people who are high-level streamers or people who have a large following, if you are going to talk to your fan base and you are going to talk on a stream about current events, opinion and editorial is fine, and, discussing them is fine, but if you don't know something and you're just going off of instinct, it probably would be better for you just to say, I don't know. Because honestly, here's the problem. Normally, I wouldn't care at all about what you said, what your opinion was on it. That's fine. The problem is, we have a situation on our hands now where confirmation bias has gone wild. And basically, you have leaders telling a crowd, an angry mob, what they want to hear to make them more angry in an attempt for nothing except an electoral victory in the midterms. And hopefully in the presidential election next time. That's what this is all about. It's about nothing else other than that. And the reason I make that point, the reason that's a big deal, is because watching that Jack Smith testimony today, I was reminded, oh yeah, that January 6th committee hearing. I guess we've already forgotten about the fact that this concept of January 6th, the most terrible day in history, worse than Pearl Harbor, worse than 9/11, where, none of the Capitol Police died, none of them were killed by any of the protesters. None of the protesters had any guns that we know about. They certainly didn't use any guns, but somebody did. And they used them against Ashley Babbitt. And, he used it against Ashley Babbitt. Somebody tried to make the argument that she was warned not to go. And I'm sitting there going, wait, hold up. There are people going in that window in a steady stream for quite a while, as the reports go. What do you mean she was warned? Did you warn everyone coming through the window that you can't do that? Because Michael Byrd, this officer, who, once again, this guy had a history of irresponsible gun, like, for example, leaving his service weapon in a goddamn men's bathroom. A public men's bathroom in the Capitol building. Gee, I wonder what kind of threats that could have posed. But Democrats don't care about that because he's on their team. Cassidy Hutchinson, who we've kind of found out more than anything else was Liz Cheney's personal puppet dancing on a string in front of the committee saying exactly what she wanted her to say, was treated as the brave and powerful witness, the star witness of the whole thing by suggesting that Donald Trump wanted so badly to go to the Capitol, he materialized his hand and made it go through bulletproof glass through to the driver's seat of a vehicle that the president uses to get around the Capitol, and choked out the guy driving the limo, and then tried to grab the steering wheel to force him to go to the Capitol. That's the star witness. That's the story. And by the way, that was secondhand hearsay testimony. And the two people she was quoted as hearing that from, both of them said, I never even heard anything about that until I heard about it in this hearing. So, so much for the secondhand source on that. And by the way, once again, now we do know that there were hours where Cassidy Hutchinson and her attorney, who, by the way, her first attorney, who was actually wondering what in the hell is going on here, got relieved of duty because Liz didn't like him too much. And then they gave her another attorney, one that was a little bit more, a little bit more on the level. And, yeah, they seem to have devised exactly what to say. This is a girl who was a fairly young intern. She had actually, I found out, interned for Ted Cruz for some time. Not really a person that was of major note. No one really was really closely associated with her. They didn't know her that well, but that's the perfect person to use, right? Because then you can't ask it a question like, wait, Cassidy, I never heard this story from you. What are you talking about? Because nobody talks to her. So that just gives the advantage. But, something else is a little bit of a problem too, because for all the big promises that were made, and for people like Adam Schiff and Benny Thompson, two of the most unimpressive people on the planet, to run around and be shouting about what a big success the January 6th hearing was, when it was planned by a television producer, by the way, and put on primetime television. Still couldn't draw very much of an audience because nobody gave a shit by that point. But to keep that going on and on and on, and still bring that up in debate, to still bring that up like that's a legitimate argument for anything. And once again, to put that on the same level as Pearl Harbor and 9/11 and places, where thousands of Americans were killed, to an event where a mob got unruly outside the Capitol building, broke some of the property, and freaked out a bunch of pussies in the House of Representatives by running around and doing mildly rude shit. Which, by the way, when they hear arguments like this, they flip their lid. It was a violent insurrection. They were going to hang Mike Pence. I hope Mike Pence weighed about 10 pounds because that freaking gallows wasn't going to hold shit. But, once again, I always go back to looking at what we know. And once again, not only is the thing with Ashley Babbitt, but first, there were no FBI agents that were involved in January 6th. Then there were some that were that were there. They were confidential human sources, though there were no actual FBI agents. Then it was, well, there were a mix of them in the crowd. There were about 23. Then there was a mix of them, and they were also some of them were already in the doors before the breach. Meaning, wait, what? And then before you know it, actually it's way more than 23. It's actually more like 200 something. And there's an episode of Tucker back before he lost his mind and bought property in Qatar, where he interviewed Clay Higgins, who is so underestimated. I mean, that guy was going to take down the Gremlins. I love Clay Higgins. I seriously do love Clay Higgins. I played his clip on this show several times because I love Clay Higgins so much. But he said, word for word on Tucker's show, at one point in time, way before all of this, that it's above 200 FBI agents that were there on January 6th. He used specifically that number. He's like, I feel comfortable saying it was more than 200 people. We find out now it was like 212 or something. The fact that he was that accurate with what he was willing to say at that time on camera, he wasn't really willing to divulge too much, but I'll tell you this, Clay Higgins knows way more than he's letting on, and or he's been able to let on, and you better believe that more people in the party, in particular Republicans, I don't know if Democrats would even be interested, but to Republicans, you had better bet that some of them know those details as well, because it's not just Clay Higgins that would be privileged. Now, a lot of whistleblowers do contact Clay Higgins. I know that. He's not quite at the same level as someone like Chuck Grassley, who gets, or Ron Johnson in the Senate, who get a lot of whistleblower complaints. But he does get his fair share. It's usually from people that have something more related to, something more sensitive that's related to like the government agencies and things like that, as opposed to like less, maybe still a government agency, but not one as threatening as like the FBI. Anyway, yeah, the facts, once again, we found the pipe bomber now. They didn't talk about that for so long. We found the pipe bomber. Now their excuse there is, well, he was a right-winger because he talked about how he supported Trump. Yeah, I'm sure he talked about how he supported Trump. Meanwhile, his whole family voted Democrat. He voted Democrat. There's no sign that he ever switched parties. And suddenly he's so devoted to Donald Trump and the Republicans that he's going to go out of his way to go plant pipe bombs outside of the headquarters of the DNC and near the RNC the day before the certification of the election, during COVID, mind you, of course. There's so much there that is still stinky. What seems like the good news is I'm starting to notice that as people are panicking, they're losing control of the narrative entirely, and they're having to go ahead and divulge a lot of things that they wouldn't have wanted to. My hope, and I'll go further into detail on this in the next episode, because, like I said, there's a real big bit of information I want to go over, because the whole, between the shooting today and everything else that's been going on lately with both the upcoming midterms, and with this thing with Greenland, this thing with Russia, and relations with other foreign countries, even if they're allies, and the fact that we're kind of in a weird spot right now as far as globally, because I agree with President Trump wholeheartedly on the idea that we don't want to go in and try to put our fingerprints all over another country's choices of what they're going to do to preserve it. Like, that's only a job that they can do. We can support them, but we can't do it for them. And so the red line in Iran, or who they're going to install as the next leader in Venezuela, they're tough questions, and you can't. I know a lot of people who want a response right now. They're hoping that the president will do something, but to be honest, you sometimes you just have to actually be patient and wait to see what the smartest move is, because in terms of Iran, they've never been in a weaker state, but that doesn't mean that they're down and out yet. And it's like a flickering candle before it goes out. It just starts kind of going a little wild, and then it finally fizzles out. This is like the last gasp before it finally dies out, and it seems like that's what is going on in Iran. Meanwhile, in Venezuela, we were getting rid of a threat to the country. Now, that threat to the country happened to also be a dictator over that country. And what does make me proud as an American, probably more than anything else, about that whole thing, is to hear people who said we never thought this day would come, and now it has, and it's because of the fact that the USA and the people of Venezuela never stopped believing that it was possible. And we thank Donald Trump, and we thank the United States, and the most important thing, whether it's Iran or Venezuela, to see their flag being waved by their people, and their people also right alongside it waving our flag. It's something you see in a lot of places in the world, and it almost is something that gives you goosebumps, because the symbol for countries without hope that are trying to overcome incredibly hostile regimes that have taken over their country, and it has seemed hopeless. When they finally have hope that things are going to change, the flag they start waving is, of course, their own. But the next one they always seem to wave, it's happened all over the world, is the United States flag. And it's incredible. It's just one of those things, like we are the country that stands for the liberation of a people from tyranny. And when people are thinking back on all the years that they've been living under this oppressive rule, and when they were finally able to break free of it, they are reminded of all countries, the United States, and here at home, you got a bunch of middle-class, white, self-loathing people who, rather than trying to figure out how to better themselves, would rather pass the buck and bash the country and blame it all on everyone else than take any bit of fucking responsibility and any bit of, drive and motivation, instead of going to destroy everybody else's stuff, to just build their own stuff, to actually do something productive and actually succeed in their own way with something they are talented at. But they don't, even if they could, even if they knew how to, I don't even know if they would at this point. They have become so synonymous with the embodiment of hatred of someone else. When they toss around words like colonizer at, like, for example, Israelis, Jews living in Israel are colonizers now somehow, because they didn't actually go and fight a war to get the territory, or what? I mean, they did give a lot of that territory to people in hopes of making a peace deal, and it never worked out, because it's not about land, it's about exterminating the people. And that's because of the Jewish sort of stereotype, the Jewish sort of blame that has existed for, hundreds of years now. But American blame and Western blame has started to become very prominent because of the idea that, well, you're wealthy. It's like, of course, there are people who are wealthy in the United States. But guess what? There's a lot of people in bad situations too, and that seems to be a point that's talked about nonstop until you're talking about another country, and then suddenly it's like, well, wait, hold it. But these people have no way. Well, guess what? Some of our people have no way. Some of our veterans have to live on park benches. Some of our veterans have nothing to eat. Some of our veterans have been kicked out of their homes and have nowhere to go. And you're worried about that country over there because they're better people, because they don't make as much money as we do, and because they aren't colonizing. That's why I say the level of twisted logic that you need to be able to employ to think like a left-wing Democrat today is so nihilistic and so disgraceful that there's nothing you could be a part of that would be more shameful than a part of the modern left. And it's sad, but that's just the way it is. And so we have to. The only thing we can do is call it out when we see it, do the best we can to reject it. But once again, and I'm going to get into more detail about this tomorrow, if we don't know enough about the subject, especially if it's something that just happened and you're not like somebody that really understands crime, or not even crime, but the history of political protest, the history of political riots, the history of damage that's been done to this country during some of the most severe periods of civil unrest, and who took it on the chin. Just for example, like the LA riots. You know who took it on the chin? The Vietnamese business owners in Los Angeles. They took it on the chin. They didn't have insurance. They had a business that they were using, and they were able to pay the bills with it. But one day, a bunch of people got pissed because the cops that beat up Rodney King were found not guilty, and so the antidote was destroying every business in sight and putting a bunch of people from Vietnam who had escaped their country's barbarism of the killing fields. Oh wait, that was Cambodia. Well, they had it actually as well, but even so, like, had escaped, the re-education from the North Vietnamese and made it to the United States, and now they're facing this consequence that has nothing to do with them. But when questioned about it, I remember watching this. When questioned about it, the people who were actually doing it said, "Well, they're just weird people. They never associate themselves with anyone around here." It's like, okay, so they're shy, and that is deserving of burning their business down. That's why I say, if you don't know enough about the issue, if you don't even know why the hell you're protesting, maybe you should take a step back, take some time to actually understand it, and then actually make a decision about what you want to do. Because right now, the amount of people trying to push some sort of alternate version of these events, and that combined with the fact that our schools are so miserably failing at teaching kids a goddamn thing, teaching them anything useful, then no wonder they know nothing about these things, because this isn't like the school, even when I went to school, or even when my younger brother went to school. Like, this isn't what they were taught. They weren't. I went to college. I talked about this. I went to a community college, and there was still openly conservative teachers there who advocated against abortion and open the floor and welcome debate about it. There were left-wing professors who loved discussing the issues and never got mad at their opponents. And I had an English teacher who was very, very apolitical, but very centrist when he was kind of pushed to decide on something. And he really didn't believe in radical action. He was very, very against radical action. I never learned more about writing English correctly than I did from that guy. Now, I was also in journalism, and that's a totally different style of writing, but like, say, short story or essay format or things like that. Like, I learned how to write that format so well that I went from writing C+ papers to A+ papers by the end of that semester. Excellent teacher. They don't have those kind of teachers anymore. They have teachers that want to tell you that, everything's a social construct, and it's all this pseudoscience bullshit. It's not about truth anymore. It's about their truth. It's one of the most self-destructive terms that's ever swept across the country. My truth, because it's like there's a distinction between someone's truth in the country and someone else's truth in the country. You can get together and they'll have different truths. So that's why I say know the truth. And tomorrow we'll discuss. I guess I'll just bring it up. Now. Well, I'm a fan of Asmongold, but man, his take on the shooting today, very bad. And it wouldn't be a big deal. It wouldn't be a big deal if they weren't already calling for this guy's head, if they weren't already saying it was murder, if Jacob Fry, the fluff boy, wasn't already using it as a part of his platform to rip apart conservatives and tell ICE to leave the state, and fat-ass retard Tim Walz and their next-door neighbor, the first governor who is larger in size than the state he actually governs, B.K. Pritzker. They're already, they've already got the narrative in place and they're ready to go. Like I said, from the very beginning of this episode, this is what they've been waiting for. And make no mistake, they couldn't care less about the people who are killed. They couldn't care less about any illegal immigrant here and what they're doing. They don't care. What they care about is one thing and one thing only. I heard this again today too, and this is the main clip I was going to play, which I'll have to get to tomorrow. But basically, said the same thing I've been saying for a long time. There's only one thing they care about, and that is having power and keeping power. I guess that's two things, but they care about power. They just care about power and making sure the Democrats are the ones that have it. Because when they're not in power, you can just see just the nonstop anger and desperation. And it goes back to right at the beginning, like I said, and I'll just close with this. It goes right back to the beginning with, watching the timer like a hawk during a congressional hearing. Mr. Chairman, the time has expired. Mr. Chairman, time has expired. I don't see that the Republicans do that. Maybe for somebody who is like Jasmine Crockett when she goes completely off subject. But not for every single witness on the opposing side, or every single congressman on one side. Not for every single one. To Chip Roy, to Jim Jordan, to Kevin Kiley, to Harriet Hageman, everyone. Jamie Raskin's over there going crazy. Mr. Chairman, the time has expired. Because he does not want Jack Smith to have to feel uncomfortable, he's got all their secrets. And he's their attack dog. You don't want to lose that. So anyway, I'm gonna do my best, and I'm really I should be able to make it on because I've already got everything ready to go. And unless there's another shooting tomorrow, I won't have to add anything. Which I really hope there isn't. This is exactly what, like I said, this it's hard to believe, but this is exactly what they want. That's why. Well, we'll get to that part too tomorrow. But just basically everything you see right now, just realize there's a strategy for what they're doing. It's why you see someone like Hakeem Jeffries, once again, one of the most unremarkable people I've ever seen in my life, potentially going to be the next Speaker of the House because he takes orders well. So he's perfect. Fits the role great. Put him in there. He speaks terribly. He doesn't know anything he's talking about. He sounds like a dumbass, but he takes orders really well. So perfect. So, and this is just ultimately about the fact that, like, they're going to be bringing everything they possibly can to try and smear conservatives because this year is going to be a year of successes. I can almost guarantee that, considering what we've been hearing has been in the works. And it's really amazing to see so many cards Donald Trump has this term. He's playing them close to the chest. He's not revealing them until like the last minute. And it's amazing to see it. But I personally want that to continue. I know a lot of people want that to continue, but if they convince enough people that the intentions aren't good at all because they have no idea what they're talking about, and the people they're talking to have no idea what they're saying, but it just sounds terrible. So, and then they don't want that. It's going to be one of the most depressing stories we could possibly hear in American history because the president that came back from the brink of political ruin and won in a landslide and is getting his second term now is going to have basically only half of his second term. And the other half of his second term is going to be fighting with Democrats about everything. And their every hearing, like I said, is going to be yet another impeachment inquiry, whether it's against Donald Trump, whether it's against Pete Hegseth, whether it's against Kristi Noem, Bobby Kennedy Jr., you take your pick. They'll fire or impeach any or all of them because this is the group that they don't like because they can't be controlled. The other day, now I really will close. The other day, I don't know if anybody saw this, but Trump wanted to cap the credit card interest rates at 10%. And who did he call for help with this? Pocahontas herself, Elizabeth Warren. And you can tell she's so upset that she has to talk about him. And she has to talk about him in a good way. But she literally has been fighting for that for years. For over a decade, actually. So she can't say no. But at the same time, by not saying no, that means that she's going to have to partially credit the devil himself in her eyes, Donald Trump, with doing something that she's wanted to do for so long and thought was so important to the American people. Well, do it then. Let's see it. That'd be great. How about some real bipartisanship? I know you can't stand them, but try to do it just this once for the people. Just, what you say you do, but actually do it this time. That'll do it for me, guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'll finish this episode up because we'll just have to call this a two-parter. So I really will do the absolute best I can. Like I said, I already have all the videos. As long as there's no catastrophe here and there's not some kind of amazing emergency situation, I should be able to finish up the episode because how long did I go right now? I did just over 2 hours. So yeah, so it's a little less than that probably left. So yeah, I should be able to do it tomorrow. But so hopefully I'll see you then. Either way, thank you guys for watching. Take care. Have a good one. I'll see you next time. Peace.
Again, 5, 4, 3. That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. And we will leave you with a, I can't do it. Okay. We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.